In the dark corridors of medieval Europe, whispers of witchcraft carried the weight of death. Women, and sometimes men, accused of secret pacts with the devil, were dragged into chambers where justice became cruelty and fear became law. Tonight, we open the iron doors of history to reveal tortures so haunting, so unimaginable, they blur the line between superstition and savagery. These were the witch tortures you won't believe were real. The room is cold. A single torch flickers on. The wall, its flame trembling against the damp stone. Shackles clink as a woman, frail yet defiant, is dragged to the center. Her crime? A whispered accusation, nothing more than a neighbor's grudge. The inquisitor unfurls a parchment, his eyes steady, his tone merciless. Confess, or suffer. At a wooden chair sits waiting, not an ordinary chair, but one covered in spikes, designed to pierce flesh with every breath. She resists, insisting on her innocence, her voice trembling with desperation. The crowd murmurs, fear mixed with morbid fascination. What happens next is not a story from fiction. It is a fragment of history, carved into Europe's darkest centuries. Across towns and villages, thousands met similar fates, swallowed by hysteria, condemned by superstition. Tonight, we'll uncover the instruments, the methods, and the madness that fueled the witch hunts. From the dreaded strappado to the iron mask of shame, these were not just punishments, they were orchestrated theaters of fear. And every scream was meant to echo a warning. Between the 15th and 17th centuries, Europe lived under a shadow darker than plague or famine, the fear of witches. Accusations spread like wildfire, often rooted in jealousy, suspicion, or the desperate need to explain the unexplainable. A failed harvest? A sick child? A storm that destroyed the crops? Surely it must be the work of a witch. But superstition alone wasn't enough. Church authorities, inquisitors, and even local leaders turned fear into institution. Manuals like the infamous Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches, laid out detailed methods to identify, interrogate, and condemn alleged witches. The result? Tens of thousands across Europe, mostly women, were tortured and executed. Why does this matter today? Because witch hunts weren't just about witches. They were about control, about how fear can be weaponized to crush dissent, silence the vulnerable, and turn communities against one another. The instruments of torture may belong to the past, but the psychology of fear and scapegoating? That still echoes in our world today. In this episode of Forgotten Chains, we'll journey into the dim chambers of medieval Europe. We'll see the devices inquisitors used, hear the stories of the accused, and confront the chilling truth. The line between justice and brutality has always been fragile. Picture a small village in 16th century Germany. A cow stops giving milk. The baker's bread fails to rise. Children fall ill without reason. The whispers begin, "Who has angered God? Who walks with the devil? A widow who keeps to herself. A woman skilled in herbs. A young girl whose beauty draws envy. Suspicion attaches itself like smoke. Before long, names are spoken and accusations are written." Local authorities, eager to prove their piety, call upon inquisitors. These men arrive, not to question, but to confirm guilt. And guilt, they believe, hides behind silence. To extract confession, they turn to the tools of torture. The medieval imagination was horrifyingly creative. Each device served a dual purpose: to inflict unbearable pain and to demonstrate to onlookers the truth of witchcraft. The accused would be bound, hands tied behind the back. A rope looped around the wrists was attached to a pulley. With a signal, the victim was hoisted into the air, arms twisted unnaturally, shoulders threatening to dislocate. Sometimes weights were tied to the feet, intensifying the agony. Few endured without screaming confessions, true or not, iron chairs embedded with hundreds of spikes. The accused was forced to sit, straps binding them tight. The spikes pierced the skin, drawing blood with every movement. Sometimes the chair was heated from below, transforming agony into slow roasting. Small but vicious. The thumbscrew crushed fingers between metal plates, bones splintering with each twist. The boot, a wooden or iron casing, was tightened around. The leg, wedges hammered in until bones shattered. Every crack echoed like a drumbeat of submission. A cruel device inserted into the mouth, rectum, or, most often, into women's bodies. A screw expanded metal petals, tearing tissue, leaving victims maimed in silence. These were not instruments of justice. They were tools of fear, designed to break both body and spirit. Torture rarely happened in secret. Villagers gathered, urged to watch. A spectacle of suffering served as proof of righteousness. A woman cries out, "I am innocent." Her voice echoes. But after hours in the strappado, after bones pop from their sockets, her words change. "Yes, I flew on a broom. Yes, I met the devil at night." The inquisitor smiles, his ledger filled with confessions that confirm his beliefs. Confessions spread like wildfire. One accused names another, not out of malice, but survival. Soon, entire communities are ensnared. The witch hunt is no longer about one person. It's about purging a village, a town, even a nation. The ultimate punishment awaited those who endured the tortures: execution. The stake became a stage. Bound by rope and surrounded by wood, the condemned faced the crowd. The fire was not instant. Flames licked slowly, smoke suffocating before fire consumed. Children watched, neighbors cheered, or stayed silent in fear of becoming next. The spectacle reaffirmed the lesson. Obedience to church and crown was survival. By the late 17th century, skepticism began to challenge hysteria. Thinkers of the Enlightenment questioned whether torture could ever reveal truth. Some rulers banned witch trials outright, but the damage was done. Estimates suggest 40,000 to 60,000 lives were lost in Europe alone, most of them women. And the legacy? Fear had rewritten communities. Trust was shattered, families torn apart. The witch hunts remind us how easily societies can be consumed when fear replaces reason. When we look back on the witch hunts, it's easy to see them as relics of a superstitious past. But their lesson is timeless. Fear, when unchecked, becomes a weapon sharper than any blade, crueler than any torture device. It drives ordinary people to commit extraordinary cruelty, all under the guise of righteousness. The women and men accused were not witches. They were scapegoats, outsiders, healers, widows, the vulnerable. Their suffering tells us something about ourselves, how quickly communities can fracture when suspicion and hysteria take root. Today, we may not burn witches, but we still see echoes of witch hunts in the way fear is spread, how groups are targeted, how voices are silenced. Technology, politics, and social pressures may have replaced iron chains and spiked chairs, but the psychology remains hauntingly familiar. Remembering this history is more than recounting cruelty. It is a call to vigilance, to guard against the temptation to blame, to question before condemning, and to recognize the humanity of those society seeks to cast out. You've just walked through the darkest chambers of medieval history. If this journey through forgotten tortures opened your eyes, help us shine light on more hidden corners of the past. Hit the like button to support our work. Subscribe to Forgotten Chains for more stories of history's untold struggles, and ring the bell so you never miss an episode. And if you want to go deeper, check out our video on the forgotten torture devices of the Spanish Inquisition, a chilling companion to tonight's story. History's chains are not always made of iron. They are forged from fear, silence,